Good morning, everyone. Today is December 11th, and welcome to a brand new edition of the Purpose-Driven CEO. Today on the Purpose-Driven CEO, we are going to cover a topic called the 5 questions. And let me give you a little bit of background on where this comes from, and then I'm going to jump straight into the 5 questions because they have really been a game changer for me. So every day I think it's extremely important that we renew our mind. I think that it's easy to get tired, it's easy to get caught up in the past, it's easy to not forgive others. It's easy to become bitter about our lives, and I think it's very important that we learn the art of renewal. And so as I was kind of praying through this, and I was studying people in my life that I really, really admired, I found that all of them had 5 things in common. And so what I did was I ultimately broke this down into 5 daily questions that I asked myself each and every day. And I want to start out with the first one, and it's I'm going to tell you a real brief story for each. So the first question is, do I have a clear vision for my life? Now, in my situation, it is, do I have a clear vision of God's plan for my life? And the story that I'd love to use is Harvey Mackay had flown up to New Jersey. He had gotten off of an airplane, and he had gone out to the baggage claim, grabbed his bags, went to grab a taxi. This was before the days of Uber. And there was a certain taxi driver out there who looked really sharp. He was standing outside his taxi. He was wearing a white press shirt, black slacks, beautiful shiny shoes, a nice hat. And he welcomed Wally as he walked up. And Wally was very surprised. The guy shook his hand. Harvey was very surprised. Wally was the name of the cab driver. Wally shook Harvey's hand and handed him a copy of a mission statement. And his mission was to provide Harvey with the best transportation experience in New Jersey at the most reasonable cost. And Harvey was like, "Man, I've never had a cab driver give me a mission statement before." And so he jumps in the cab, and Wally goes through a series of questions. He asks him if he would like something to drink, if there is a certain musical selection he would like. Would he like to read on his way, or just be left to himself? And it was just an amazing experience. And so Harvey asked Wally, how did he develop this kind of shtick, or this process that he would take his clients through. And Wally said that he had been an immigrant into the United States, and his father was a cab driver. He didn't want to be a cab driver because he saw how people treated him and his father. And so he tried everything in the world to get another job or go to college, and he just couldn't get in. He said one day he was driving a cab. He was very angry about his life, and he had a passenger who was paraplegic, and the individual was helped into the car, and on their ride downtown, this guy really changed Wally's life. And he realized that if this individual could be happy and fulfilled and really inspiring, then Wally should be able to do the same thing. And so he decided that if he was going to be a cab driver, he was going to be the best cab driver in the world. In fact, his real goal was to own the largest transportation company in his state. So he began to ask his riders or his clients for what they were looking for in an ideal cab ride, and some of them wanted something to eat or music or something to read, a current day's Wall Street Journal or Sports Illustrated or USA Today, and then some of them just wanted to be left alone. So he started going through this kind of a questioning process. People loved him. He got full. He was like a limo service with the same people all the time. And then he went and hired a new driver, and then he got full, and he taught them all his process. Anyway, long story short, he ended up is now the largest transportation company in the eastern United States. It's really remarkable. I was actually speaking a few years ago down at the University of Texas to their MBA students, and I always share this story a lot of times when I'm speaking to students, and Wally was there. He's actually on the speaking circuit now, so I had to change my whole speech. But Wally developed a very clear vision for who he wanted to be. Now, let me briefly share with you Gene Grayson. Gene Grayson was a neighbor of ours growing up, and Gene Grayson worked for a local utility, never made much money, but he just had an amazing family. And Gene Grayson's vision was to be the best father and grandfather that he could be. So when we develop a clear vision, it makes a lot of difference in our lives. And number two, the second question is, do you give your best at everything that you do? And I think about my friend John Stava. A couple of years ago, we were on the Tulsa Zoo board of directors, and John was chosen to lead our largest fundraiser. And by this time, John Stava was in his 70s. He had made his money. He could have retired and gone to the beach or to the golf course, and he did not do that. He gave everything on this fundraiser and set a record for what the zoo made. If we're going to do something, we need to give our very best at everything that we do. The third story really changed my life, and the question we're going to ask ourselves is: Are we more focused on others than we are focused on ourselves? And Dr. Jim Halligan at OSU really changed my life when he focused on me one evening. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do for my career, and I had gone to a Board of Regents dinner. I was a student leader at OSU, and I'd gone to this dinner. And during the dinner, Dr. Halligan, I know, was just making conversation, and he said, "Sean, I've been meaning to ask you, what are you going to do whenever you graduate?" Well, I was too embarrassed to say that I didn't know. There were 5 members of the Board of Regents there. Our university president, Dr. Halligan, is there. And so I looked to my left, and this guy to my left has a nameplate that says Bruce Benbrook, Chairman, Stock Exchange Bank, Woodward, Oklahoma. And so I thought, well, that sounds good. I'll just say that. And so I did. I said, I'm thinking about going into banking. And everybody was super surprised. And I told them it was a very recent career decision. They asked me a bunch of questions about banking. I bluffed my way through the whole dinner. And as we were walking out, Dr. Halligan says, Sean, I didn't realize that you wanted to go into banking. I have a good friend that owns a group of banks. Maybe I can help you get an internship. So I run and get my resume, take it to him. He follows through. I do get an internship, and that's how I started my career in the banking business. Well, here is the key here. Dr. Halligan could gain nothing from me. There was nothing I had to offer him. He just lived a life where he was always looking for ways that he could help others. And honestly, he really changed my life with that. The fourth question is, are we truly grateful for what we have been given? So there's a book called The Happiness Advantage by Sean Acor. I talked about gratitude in an earlier podcast, so I'll be brief here. But in this story, Happiness Advantage, Sean is a positive psychology professor at the University of Harvard. He learns that 80% of his students are clinically depressed. He tries to figure out why the other 20, why were they clinically depressed, first of all, and it was because they felt like they were letting everybody down because they weren't number one any longer. So he looks at the other 20%. Why aren't they depressed? There ought to just be one happy person if that's the criteria. And the other 20% are just so grateful to be at Harvard that those feelings of gratitude are overwhelming the other feelings of stress and that they're letting other people down. So he learned that the key to happiness was gratitude. And there are multiple ways that you can program your mind daily to be grateful. You can write down 3 new gratitudes every day, spend 3 minutes a day, journaling about something you're thankful for, 3 minutes in prayer about something you're thankful for, helping someone else with a random act of kindness each day, and exercising for 30 minutes. So helping become more grateful will make a big game changer for us. And then the final one is, do you believe the best is yet to come? Now, if you're a person of faith, the best is yet to come. If you are not, we need to find a source of optimism for the future of our life. My friend Gordon Greer, I was going through the darkest time in my life in the spring of 2009. Our bank was about to go under, and I had breakfast with my buddy Gordon Greer. And Gordon told me that the way he got through the 80s, which was really, really terrible in Oklahoma, was that each day he would have his breakfast, and as he would say his prayer, and as he walked out the door to go to work, he looked in this oval mirror, and he would tell himself, Gordon, do the best you can do today. So he would go to work, and he would get, sued, punched, spit on, slandered, keys thrown at him. I mean, he was having to foreclose on many people. It was just a very, very difficult time. And so when he came back home, he would look back in that same mirror and ask himself, did I do the best I could do today? And if the answer was yes, that is all he could do. He couldn't control the way other people treated him. He couldn't control interest rates. He couldn't control oil prices. He could only control what he did, and he could only do his best. So every morning I start with these 5 questions. Do I have a clear vision of who I want to be, and am I working toward this vision? Number 2, do I give my best at everything I do? Number 3, do I focus more on others than myself? Number 4, am I grateful for what I have been given? And number 5, do I believe the best is yet to come? So I want to close today. I want to share a poem with you that has been very impactful for me in my life. It's called What God Won't Ask. God won't ask the square footage of your house, but he'll ask how many people you welcomed into your home. God won't ask about the clothes you had in your closet, but he'll ask how many people you helped to clothe. God won't ask what your highest salary was, but he'll ask if you compromised your character to obtain it. God won't ask what your job title was, but he'll ask if you performed your job to the best of your ability. God won't ask how many friends you had, but he'll ask to how many people you were a friend. God won't ask in what neighborhood you live, but he'll ask how you treated your neighbors. And God won't ask about the color of your skin, but he'll ask about the content of your character. So my prayer for all of us today is that by asking these 5 questions every day, we can gain a direction and a focus for our life, and we can create a legacy that will go far beyond our bank account or our job title. We can truly make a difference in those around us and create an eternal legacy that will last way beyond our time here on earth. So thank you so much for being with me today, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of The Purpose Driven CEO.